And we welcome you back to the starting lineup, and thank you very much for joining us. Starting lineup brought to you by Play It Again Sports in the Fremont Shopping Center, Battlefield and Fremont Springfield, by Swing Right Golf at the south end of Campbell Avenue, a little bit north of Nixa, by Citizens Bank of Rogersville with two locales, one adjacent to Highland Springs and the other in Rogersville itself, and by Marshfield Chevrolet at the I-44 exit, couple of left turns, you cross over I-44, and then you're on the North Outer Road, and you are driving right into Marshfield Chevrolet. Ned Reynolds along with
Scott Purrier.
Art Haynes.
We have a special guest. We're going to talk high school football with it on the horizon this Friday night, and one of the key matchups in the area is Carthage at Nixa, and we're pleased to have on with us Coach John Perry of the Nixa Eagles. Coach, good morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
You betcha. Yeah, it's here. It's time. And of course, Nixa in the COC, they won't let you open up with one of the teams that you can roll over. It's always either a Carthage or a Webb or a Republic. You need to talk to the schedule makers there in the league.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they think when they do the schedules. I'm not sure how it works out, but it does, start out with who is predominantly the stronger team.
Having a little bit of a signal issue there, Coach. Kind of freezing you up here a little bit. If you can,
every week.
Yeah, we're having a little signal issue with you on the internet stream. There, are you in a good area? Are you in a safe spot, as Ron Hurst would say?
I'm in a safe spot. I don't know why I lost you.
There we go. Okay, well, yeah, and so Carthage coming in Friday night. The definition of a football program is when you lose 18 starters a year ago and you go to the state championship game again. You've lost 18 starters going into this year, and people kind of look at Nixa as the team to beat. You got to be pleased with the way your program just keeps replenishing its regulars every year.
For sure. I think that's a mark of a team or a school that has a program is – you lose a lot of kids and you replace them with a lot of seniors, and Carthage is no different. You go pull up their starting lineup and they have a lot of seniors as well, although they graduated a lot of people. Friday night football is played best by teams that have a bunch of 17 and 18-year-olds, not by a team that has a bunch of 14 and 15-year-olds. So, I am excited for where we are and with the kids we have, and, losing a lot of seniors every year is a good thing, not a bad thing.
John, you've been through coaching for many, many years, and you've been through the changes and so forth and so on, but the kids haven't. They're new. This is all new to them. How has Nixa adjusted to some major changes in their lineup?
They've been fantastic. Our kids are awesome. They put a lot. You think about what goes into playing the sport of football, probably more so than anything in the world, how much time they put in practicing, how much time they put in preparing to go out there and play 9 COC games. They put a lot into it. Our kids are fantastic. They worked hard. They're ready. They're excited. They understand sometimes they got to wait their turn, and that's a good thing. When you're successful, you don't mind waiting your turn. And so the guys that are in there now are excited and ready to go.
John, everybody's looking forward to Adam McKnight's senior year. But now, what about the offensive line without Cantwell? How's that going to be?
The great thing is this, and I know that is out there. Like what most people would say is we lost Jackson Cantwell, so how are we going to win a game, right? Like our kids understand that. We've got great high school offensive linemen. Okay, last year we had some great college offensive linemen. This year we got great high school offensive linemen. Now, they're a work in progress because 3 of them are brand new, but, man, we're excited about the effort they play with, the attitude that they play with, and you can most definitely win high school football games with high school football players. We were doing that long before Jackson Cantwell came into town, and hopefully we will continue to do that.
Coach, Ned and Art and I have been around this area for, I think we figured up a combined 150 years, and we can't recall a better quarterback college prospect than Adam McKnight, in terms of the size, the toughness, the arm strength. I've never seen anybody throw a better deep ball in the Ozarks since he came along. Yet, he's committed to Missouri State. Why haven't the Power Fours jumped on board with Adam? What do you see? Is it because his stats, because you've had so many games where he's out of there in 2.5 quarters and, the blowouts, and you've had a heavy run balance with some great running backs? How do you, you've been around recruiting forever. What do you see there with Adam, and what was keeping people away?
I think it's a lot of things in 2026. I think it's number one, Southwest Missouri, it is what it is. You can go into Kansas City or St. Louis as a college recruiter and see many Division I players in one day. So that I think is a factor. I also think that, in 2026, a lot of these five-star guys have these quarterback gurus around the country, and they play football only. So they spend their entire offseason traveling and doing all these 7-on-7 things. And, Adam's a 3-sport star, which is awesome. That's the best thing going. And then I think the other thing is this. I think football in 2026 is different. I don't think college quarterbacks are getting recruited like they were because they're not very big on signing freshmen. Why would you sign a freshman? Because you can't play as a freshman on the Division I level and be successful. Go pull up the track record of the freshmen that started, okay? And then number two, if you go in somewhere as a freshman and you don't start and you're highly touted, you're going to end up transferring. They know that. So, everybody out there goes and gets a transfer. So I think in 2026, I think going to Missouri State, is an absolute rock star of an idea because you get the opportunity to go in, compete, play, and then, what happens after that happens after that. But I think there's a lot of people out there that would advise you now on the college level to go play and then figure it out from there. So I think there's a lot of factors, but to get back to what you said, I think he's phenomenal. I think there's a lot of people going to look one day and say, man, we probably should have pulled the trigger on that kid because what they can't judge is what's on the inside. And what's on the inside is a level 5 leader, the strongest, best competitor I've ever been around. And he does throw the deep ball better than anybody I've ever had.
And he's a big kid who has a rifle arm, as you just pointed out. That makes a huge difference.
For sure.
John, this has nothing to do with Nixa football, but I'm just curious. You're a veteran coach. You've been around a long time. SEC, Big Ten, all involved now in circumstances where pro football players are allowed to come back. I think it's not going to pass, but in your opinion, what kind of thinking goes into that?
You know what? I see both sides of it. Number one, it's ridiculous, right? Once you declare you should be gone, that's that, okay? But number two, I see Lane's Kiffin's side of it too. If you're going to change the rules in the courts and you're going to give them the opportunity to, I'm not going to let somebody else go recruit them. So I kind of see both sides of it. But I did have the fortune of going and spending 3 days at Tulane this year with an all-access pass to practice and team meetings and all of that. And it did me good because college football is still alive and well. There were a lot of great things going on at the University of Tulane as far as the football program. And it did me good because there's so much negative press out there that sometimes it overrides all the good that is going on. And, those kids in that program, man, they're still college kids. They're still going to class. They're still playing for a university. They're still doing things that matter. And, that did me good.
John, loaded question, but who do you see as maybe your main challengers in the COC?
Well, I think that's, just going off of reputation and past, it's going to be Carthage, it's going to be Republic, it's going to be Webb City. Those three were highly finished really well last year. Joplin is always really good, right? I think Curtis does a fantastic job of coaching. So if you look at our schedule right off the bat, we're going to be 3 or 4 of the toughest ones on the front end.
Coach, what are you hearing with Jackson down at Miami? Is he pegged as the left tackle to start the season on the first unit? What's the contact you have with him now?
We talk somewhat regular. We talked this weekend for a long time, and what he has learned is that's a very competitive world, right? When you go into a grown man world, Jackson's just a couple of months from being 18 years old. So he is competing right now, and I think they will compete up until next Saturday when they kick off, right, with Stanford or Friday night, whenever they play. He is competing, and, I think at the end of the day, it may work out his way and it may not. All he wants to do is be the best he can be and get on the field as soon as he can. So I know he wants to play, but there's also a lot of other kids down there that have been in that program and that are 22 years old and they want to play too. So, he has learned that it is extremely competitive, but he's done really well.
Coach Perry, you've been up in this area now long enough to be able to make a determination on the level of athlete. How does it compare to what you had in Mississippi?
It's comparable. Football's football, right? What you can get into in some of the areas, like I said, when you go to Kansas City, you go to St. Louis, you go to Dallas, you go to Houston, you go to Jackson, Mississippi, you can find more in an area. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have a higher population of Division I players in a closer proximity. So for recruiters, it's so much easier to go fly in and see 10 kids in a day instead of having to go see one or two. In our area, we're going to have a few really, really high level players, right? Obviously, Jackson Cantwell being the highest level player to probably ever come out of this area, but you also got other kids, with Adam, with Govan, with all these. We got great players. It's just the quantity of is different than other places.
John, I've been a big admirer of yours since you got here, and some of the things you say are really deep. I think that translate into successful football, successful business, successful life. Kind of, where's that come from, your ability to communicate that?
It's almost like you never want to stop getting better. See what I did there?
You know what? I do have a desire to wake up every single day and just try to be a little bit better. And that desire started about 20 years ago by reading a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. And in Good to Great, right, the premise of the book is the difference in the companies that went to great and the ones that stayed good or went away was the quality of the leader, like what he did. They were all similar type of people. And that just sparked in me this desire to read and learn and grow. And, I don't want to sit still. I don't want to waste time. I mean, as I heard Tim Tebow say a couple weeks ago, like, what a shame would it be to get to heaven and be fully rested, right? Like, I don't think we're called to be fully rested. I think we're called to make a difference and serve other people, and I want to do that for as long as the good Lord allows me.
John, we talked a lot about Adam. Your team's been blessed with workhorse, very, very good running backs. Starting back with Ramon Green Jr., Dylan Rabura, McCaster last year, the transfer in. Is that Jax Adams this year, the speedster 4.4? Does he step into that role, or do you kind of diversify the offense a little more this year and maybe not as run heavy?
Well, we will diversify the offense because of just the way we are built, right? Like, we're going to always try to give ourselves the best chance to win. When we had Jackson, our best chance to win was to run right behind Jackson, right? Yeah. Like, we're not complete idiots. Without Jackson, we will diversify it a little bit, but Jax Adams is the man. Like, Jax is special. Like, he's not a super big guy, but he is a super tough, super athletic, super fast guy that if he gets a step, he is absolutely gone. I don't know that anybody will catch him. Now, we also have another senior, Josh Ford, who's been in the program that has continued to get better and better and better. So, we do feel like we've got two guys that can go out there and play on Friday night and be super successful in what we're asking them to do.
When John Perry chose coaching as a profession, surely you had somebody that you looked up to and adopted a philosophy. Who was that person?
Early on, I just wanted to be like my high school O-line coach who has now passed away. His name was Gavin Lott. Like, early on, I just wanted to be an O-line coach, man. I thought he was awesome. I thought, like, he was my idol when I was in high school, and I thought that was really cool. And then, throughout this profession, you run into some really great people that inspire you to be better. And, I've had several mentors like Bobby Hall, my high school coach, Bruce Merchant, who's still kicking and doing great, and Marcus Boyles, who just, inspired me to be the best that I can be. And it gives you somebody to kind of look at and strive for.
John, first of all, I like Mississippi. I like visiting down there. I used to have some relatives there when I was a kid. But, I mean, you move from crab meat to catfish, I guess, from there to here. What's the difference in kind of culture?
I'm going to tell you the major difference is, and I'm not trying to throw shade on nobody, but the catfish up here just ain't as good. Like, it just ain't. Like, and you ain't got no crawfish. The crawfish and the catfish, man, like, we haven't got over that yet, but we're trying. We found a couple of places that it's pretty good, okay? So, like, I'm not saying, but it's not the same. Like, it's not the same. If you've ever been to Mississippi and you've ever traveled 49 South and you've ever went to the little igloo called Jerry's, like, they just don't get no better.
John, a couple things before we let you go. The last 2 years, back-to-back state championship games come up just a little bit short in each one of them. Those kids that have been with you for 3 years, how much does that stick in their minds, and what kind of motivator is that for this team?
I don't really know. Sure, it's a motivator. I think what we strive to do is be the best that we can be, and win every single game that we can win. So, what I do think the expectations are really high here. I think our kids expect to win. I think when they walk out there, they expect to play for a state championship. You take that senior group of Adam and Jax and Reed, like, they've lost 2 games in their entire football school playing career in their 2 state championship games, So I think the expectation is to be great. Now, like, how's that going to turn? I don't know how that's going to turn out. I know this. We want to try to win the last game, and we haven't done that yet. So, obviously that's what our objective is this year.
We'll let you get back to. We had Kelly Richardson on right before this talking Drury volleyball. Her husband, Rob, of course, your defensive coordinator. Brent Venables used to have a get-back guy on the Clemson sideline. Have you ever needed a get-back guy for Rob, you think, on some of those defensive stops?
Yeah, you know what? Like, we're working on that. Rob's getting better. Like, he actually has started to back up himself, but he could probably at times use one. There's no doubt about that.
and before we let you go, just wanted to pass on a note. I did my podcast with Adam last night. He said, "Coach, can I play a little middle linebacker here and there? Is that going to happen or not?"
No, that ain't gonna happen. But I can understand that he might want to. And then if we make it back to a state championship game, it might happen. But it's not gonna happen before then.
Very good, Coach. Best of luck to you. Look forward to the big matchup with Carthage, and we'll talk to you later on in the season.
Thank you much. Y'all have a great day. Y'all do a great job.
You bet.
John Perry, head football coach at Nixa. Timeout on the starting lineup, and back in a second. Outstanding interview, as always, with Coach Perry. He's very clever, very articulate, and indeed makes an awful lot of sense when he speaks.
He does, yeah. And this Jax Adams, for those who watched him last year, he's not very big, but he is quick. And Art, late in the year when they were kind of struggling defensively, they kind of put him in almost at like a rush linebacker, rush end, and nobody could block him. I mean, he was literally running around the high school tackle on either side and getting back into the backfield. But now he gets a chance to carry the ball. And I think one of the keys is, do they have the receiving core for Adam to get the ball to? I mean, the way he throws it, it'd be a shame that they can't bring Cale Combs back for another year. Maybe you can if he fights it in the courts. But
right.
It'll be interesting to see how they turn out this year. And I think, you look at our area, and we asked Chris Parker this, we're maybe a little, I guess I wouldn't say down, but reloading at the upper level, class 5, 6, those areas. But nonetheless, it'll be fun to follow. So,
yeah, it really will. I'm looking forward to the Nixa Republic game, in that'll be the 3rd week of the season.
That'll be a dandy. One of the things we talked about briefly in the first hour, news out of Kansas City, Kenneth Walker III missed practice with a foot injury. He practiced Monday, wasn't there yesterday. What's your level of concern there?
Well, I would be concerned. I mean, they've still got a ways to go before the opener on September 14th, but yeah, I'd be concerned if this is anything more than just a hiccup.
Yeah, with a guy who's had leg issues, I think throughout his career there too, gets dinged up. But I think the concern would really escalate if they bring in a Kareem Hunt or they trade for a James Conner or something. Then you got to go, what's going on here? But Hunt was in Detroit, I think, yesterday talking to the Lions. So. Did Pacheco get hurt there, I think? Yeah,
Pacheco did get a little banged up, but he's not out for the season or anything like that.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you, the trade, though, that's what has me bothered a little bit. The trade that the Chiefs made late last night, Art, to get an offensive lineman, a 7th-round draft choice several years ago, to serve as a backup on the offensive line. Does that tell you anything? Does that smack of anything, in your opinion?
Well, it does. That the tackle positions are this late in preseason still unsettled.
Exactly. I think they have some doubts about what these individuals can do, although Veach says, this is just for backup purposes. Well, why? This guy did not play at all last year, was out with a calf injury, and I've forgotten how he says his name.
Ezeudu, maybe?
Ezeudu, yes.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Xanadu, the old Olivia Newton-John deal right there. Maybe so, not that.
The Chiefs had a lot of issues to address this off-season, and they did. But right tackle was one I kept banging the drum on last year. That really is what cost him a lot of games. With Taylor there making penalties and holds and such and getting beat, and it doesn't look like they've adequately filled that position.
Well, and of course your quarterback's coming back from a knee injury, not probably going to play any in the preseason, and then you open up on Monday night against a very aggressive and good Denver defense. That's a going to make Chiefs fans maybe a little nervous that night, isn't it, from the way it starts?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so he was a third-round choice back in 2022, Ezeudu, and then had played in 10. He'd started 10 games, played in 33 over his career, and as Ned said, missed all of last season. So it sounds like with the Giants, he was a guy that they moved around quite a bit, kind of a utility knife, at guard or tackle, wherever he needed to go there as well, too. So anything else coming out of Chiefs camp that either has caught your eye or bothers you at this point?
Well, the emergence of Cyrus Allen, I think, is a really good story to add to the receiving core. Rice seems to be healthy, so that's also good. He needs to obviously have a big year for his team and for himself. But again, the right tackle and left tackle. I mean, Josh Simmons and his fragile nature, he's, I think, going to be very good when he's in there. He was last year, but he wasn't in there very much.
Art, has Rice played at all in the preseason?
I think so. I think he did.
Because I don't think Worthy has. I think Worthy's been out of there with that shoulder injury. But Rice has had a couple of reps in there.
As Jim Allwood used to say, Worthy.
We touched on this as well in the first hour, but the SEC following suit after the Big Ten said we're not going to take professional athletes coming back to our leagues. What, in your mind, makes this any different than what's already happened with these individual state courts issuing a temporary restraining order or things of that nature to allow the kids to play till it gets settled? Do you think this will be any different?
Well, if the leagues say they're not going to allow it, then I think that effectively stops or very limits the operation of people doing that.
Well, Coach Perry, though, made a very interesting point, and this is in regard to LSU and Lane Kiffin down there. Yeah, okay, the SEC athletic directors and presidents and so forth said no, but the court issued that restraining order, court in Louisiana. What a surprise that is. And Here you have Coach Perry says, well, if the option is there, somebody else might get to them. So I'm going to practice it until I'm told not.
Well, and that's exactly what Lane Kiffin said. I think he was on with McAfee yesterday, and he said, if we don't do it, someone else will.
Exactly.
And so, which is sad that the NCAA has to sit back virtually powerless, and it's the conferences now that are stepping up and saying, we're not going to allow that. And it kind of takes you back to the Big 12 situation with Sorsby when, you had the league members saying, we're not going to play him. And I wonder if the league coaches and presidents would band together and say, hey, look, if they bring in these pros, we're not going to play it.
It could happen.
Yeah. Now, when you think about
the SEC has said we're not going to allow our teams to take these players.
Yeah.
So it's not just Lane Kiffin, it's all of them.
Yeah, but then somebody does it, and then somebody else does it, and then all of a sudden you got a problem. It's like, okay, if they go to court and a judge in a courtroom says, we're upholding this decision until we visit it further. Now, that's what happened ultimately with the Sorsby thing is NCAA came back with a counter to the court's counter and won. And so, I don't know if it's going to have to go to that, but it's ridiculous that we're in this position anyway.
Yes, it is.
If you're Lane Kiffin and you go to your practice the next day and you've got kids that are tight ends that have been there that you brought in this past winter, what do you tell them when you got a guy that's been in the Browns camp and wants to come in and play? Do you say, well, hey, guys, sorry, you're not good enough. We're going to take a look at this guy that I had at Ole Miss,
And apparently that's what you'd have to do.
Yeah.
Of course. And the philosophical approach to that is really, in my opinion, totally detrimental. And I'm astounded that it's even happening. But I'm even more astounded at the Cantor kid, Enos Cantor, 11 years in the NBA at 6'10", and he says he's now transgender and wants to play. What on earth are we doing, for heaven's sake?
It's a different world we live in now, is it not?
Jeez.
Yeah. And the WNBA itself can't play a game without some kind of off-court controversy or some kind of stands battle going on between owners and kids and all that. It's a different world now. And Art, the other thing we talked a little bit about was the PGA Tour announcing the changes for the Tour Championship. Did you get into that at all or see that?
No.
Yeah, it's going to be basically a 3-week process starting in 2028 that will finish with actual match play rounds to determine an overall champion. And I think, Ned, 90 guys will qualify originally, and then they'll go into like a stroke play event and to determine who goes on to match play. It's very much going to be like the World Cup in soccer, that you'll have these pools of players that will play head-to-head against the other 3 guys, and somebody will emerge the winner out of that. I
think what they're trying to avoid here is just exactly what happened this year when they put the 100-point totals up there and divided up the pool. Well, the race was already won. Scotty Scheffler won it. It was all locked up even before any of this started.
Now, there is a nice little $10 million check for this weekend's winner.
And that's nice.
Yeah, which will be handy. And Art, before we go to break, we talked about the passing of Dolly Parton. Of course, hits hard locally with her presence in Branson with the Stampede. And you got some good Dolly memories?
Well, just what an icon she was on so many levels, music and movies, and the Stampede in Branson and Dollywood, and I mean she was just an entertainment powerhouse all across the board, and did so in such a sweet and loving and apolitical way. I mean, there's nobody that wouldn't like Dolly Parton.
Her philanthropy, I think, overshadows almost everything. She's very, very philanthropic.
Absolutely. And, go ahead.
Imagination library that she started to give books to kids age 0 to 5, regardless of income, race, anything. And that has gone now all over the world.
And probably 60 years of a career, passing at age 80 maybe. And a lot of those movie stars and singers and all that, they have a bout here and there where they run afoul of positive public opinion. Dolly never did that, and I think that the thing to remember is, as you said, icon in music, but just a good person, and
remember so very well the shows that we ran every Saturday when I first came to KY3, Porter Wagner and Dolly Parton, and that was a big, big audience grabber.
I don't know if she ever lived that life, but she would work 9 to 5, and what a way to make a living.
Yeah,
exactly.
She worked considerably longer than that.
She did.
Hey, Ned, this is going to shock you, but I think our next guest, Scott Bales, has figured out the streaming thing. He was kicking and screaming, going to do it, and if I can figure it out and make it work, and I said, if Keith Gutton can figure it out, you can do it. So Bales is waiting. Let's take our break and talk to him.
We will do so, and we will take a quick time out here on the starting lineup and be right back. And you're home for hearing the Cardinals try to rebound tonight against the Baltimore Orioles after a 13-1 smashing last night. Tonight's game, will be heard right here at 102.1. Ned Reynolds along with
Scott Purrier.
Art Haynes.
And a guy who never gave up 13 runs in a game or 8 in an inning or anything that is on the line with us. He's one of our old buddies, our favorites. Our Ozarks legend today, we welcome in Scott Bales, live from Denver, Colorado. Are you actually in Denver, or are you in one of the suburbs up there?
We're in Westminster, about, 9 miles north. And Purrier, you didn't do your research. I did give up 8 runs in an inning.
Who was it?
In the major leagues against the Texas Rangers, Pete Incaviglia batted twice, hit a home run and a double in the same inning.
Wow. So you and Inky aren't tight then, right?
Inky's tight with me.
Well, and you were still in to absorb that pounding the second time he came up?
Oh, yeah, for sure, Art. Hey, and good to hear your voice, too. Good to hear your voice.
Yeah.
I was in. Some days there were times in old Cleveland where Pat Corrales would say, hey, bullpen's a little tired. You're going 120 pitches. We don't care if it's in 7 innings or 1 inning. You're throwing 120 pitches. So I did. But I actually pitched 5 innings that day, Art.
Well, wanted to bring you on to find out, people, whatever happened to Scott Bales. You did move out of the area, left your job with the Springfield Cardinals. You leave, and they start changing all kinds of names, stadiums and teams and all that. But kind of update us on what's going on in Scott Bale's world. What led you to move to Colorado?
Well, once our youngest daughter, Mandy, moved out here, that meant all 3 girls were here, all 3 grandkids were here, and the clock started ticking with Joanne. So it got to where either we're moving to Colorado or Joanne's moving to Colorado. So I thought, I'll go see how it looks out there.
Balesy, when you left here, of course, we had our long-time 22-year partnership doing television and so forth. You are back on.
I miss those.
Oh, yeah. We had such great times together. Are you doing TV now?
I have not done TV, Ned. I just over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, did for the Guardians radio. I did all 3 games at Coors Field. So that was kind of fun. I did them. Their Hall of Fame broadcaster, I'm sure you and Art know him, Tom Hamilton. I think he also does the Ohio State football, Guardians baseball for 40 years. He's getting to that point where he's taking road trips off. So they called him, they said, hey, you're in Denver. Would you do the radio? And I said, would love to. So I got to do that. I'm doing a couple games for the Rockies radio, because Jack Corrigan, their radio guy, who's also a former Cleveland Indian guy who I knew, he's taking some time off. So I'm going to do a couple more in September. So kind of staying busy enough, helping with some grandkids and doing a couple things with the local park board. So yeah, still wanted, like Ned and Art, still want to do something and stay busy, but not too much.
Art?
Scott, I mean, you had a long baseball career, starting at Parkview and a little bit at Missouri State and in the pros, and you were a big leaguer, and you retired, and you came back and had some productive years after that. Kind of take us through your first retirement and what prompted your return.
Oh, yeah, I had played 7 years in the big leagues, 4 years in Cleveland, 3 years with the Angels, and, great stuff. Never got on that called up, sent down, called up. I never had to do that. It was just 7 consecutive years. A lot of that, help went to being left-handed at the time. Cleveland had 2. The Angels had too many, which is why I only stayed there 3 years. If you remember, I get traded there, and I get there, and they have Jim Abbott, Chuck Finley, and Mark Langston. I thought, what the heck am I going to do here? But luckily, all 3 of those were starters, and I went in the bullpen. But, yeah, I had 7 years and went to spring training, actually, with your team, Art. I don't know if you remember that. I went with the Royals. They tell me, and Art, you might have to help me here, I think it was another even older than I was left-handed pitcher, I think Frank DiPino.
Wow.
And they said, you're both non-roster invitees. It's a competition. One of you are going to make the team, and we're going to release the other. I said, deal. I was always a really good spring training pitcher. Better than an in-season pitcher, but I always had so I thought I'll take my chances on that. I pitched like,
They were still in Florida then for spring?
Yep. Plant City.
Yep.
They had like the amusement park hooked on the stadium. I forget what that was.
Baseball.
Boardwalk. Yeah, that was going to be the newest thing in the world, and everyone. But anyway, I pitched like 12 innings, give up 1 run. Lefties are like 0 for spring training against me. I tell everyone in Springfield, all my friends, yeah, I made the team. It was between me and Frank DiPino. DiPino had to pitch a day, take 2 days off. Arm was sore, didn't have good numbers. And then the day they're flying after the game, they still haven't said anything to me or Frank, which I thought was weird, but I thought, it's just what they do here. Well, I get called into Hal McRae's office in the 7th inning of the last spring training game, and it was him and the GM, and they said, hey, we're going to take Frank DiPino and send you to AAA. I said, well, that wasn't the competition that you told me when I signed. And when I got here, you said one would make the team and one would be released. Well, you really don't have any options at this point. And I said, I'll leave here and get on a plane and go home. Well, why would you do that? You're 30, whatever I was, 33 or 4 years old. You had a great spring. I said I had a great spring, and I was told I would make the team if I beat out Frank DiPino. Well, you go down, and if something happens, we'll call you up. I said, nope. I said, that didn't start the way you told me, so I'm going home. Call me a cab. And they did. And, looking back, I probably should have gone to AAA because 2 weeks later, Frank DiPino was on the DL, and I don't think ever pitched again. But kind of just pride got in the way a little bit, and their word. I had never really been told anything but the truth in my baseball career, and that was the first time it didn't go that way. So I went home and coached girls soccer. The pay wasn't very good. And then after about 3.5 years, Brad Beatty talked me into going with the over 30 baseball team to Arizona. And he only talked me, I always said no, I wouldn't do it. I thought, what a bad idea that is. But finally he goes, yeah, we lose 2 times and we play golf for 2 or 3 days. I said, okay, I'm in. Well, we go out there. I pitch a game. He gets Kip Gross on our team, who played in the big leagues. He wins the game. I win another game. We win the championship. And Dan O'Brien Jr., who I knew from Cleveland, his dad was our GM. He was there, and we went to dinner that night, and because we were supposed to go to dinner, and he goes, you're throwing harder than you ever have. I go, no way. I haven't played catch in 3 years. He said, no, you're really. He goes, I work for the Rangers now, and we're actively looking. This was in November, December, to invite a couple guys to spring training. I said, that's crazy. I haven't even pitched in a game except against this rec league out here in Arizona in 4 years. And he gave me his card. And about 2 weeks later, I'm going through my pockets of some baseball stuff, and I have that card. And I tell Joanne and the girls the story. And the girls are now probably 10, 8, and 2. And they're like, Dad, you got to do it. Go. You got to do it. And I said, you can't. Again, I said, you can't do that. It doesn't happen. You can't just do that. Laid awake most of the night thinking about it. And then the next morning I called him. He said, hey, we're still looking to bring someone. What do you think? I said, let's do this. I said, how about we go get me a place to go in Puerto Rico. We'll go for a month. If I'm terrible, you won't be embarrassed. I won't be embarrassed. No one will know. And we'll see how it goes. Well, I went to Puerto Rico and did pretty good. Pudge was my catcher in winter ball, and then he was my catcher in Texas. They did send me to AAA for about a month, I think. And then I played a couple years with the Rangers, and it was cool because I did for the first time ever, got to go to the playoffs.
Bales, do you recall the time when you were with the Rangers it may have been your first appearance in Kansas City when we came up there and did a quick interview? Do you remember it?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember how long you pitched that night? Because I do.
was it 2 pitches?
It was 1/3 of an inning.
And I think 2 pitches.
And we took every single pitch that you made on tape.
My whole outing went on air.
Scott, wanted to ask you about, I mean, you're around the Rockies now, a couple things along those lines. Is there an affinity for the Rockies there in the Denver metro like there is with Cardinals stuff down in our area? I mean, it seems like every year that they're always the team that has great prospects coming up, and then they never really turn into great major leaguers. And if they do, they leave. They go, like a Matt Holliday or an Arenado or something like that. And then number 2 on that, what are your thoughts on baseball and the labor situation we've got coming up? Do you think we're going to have a stoppage?
Well, as far as first question, Scott, the Rockies, they kind of have a niche in Denver sports. There's the Broncos, all season tickets. You can't even buy a ticket for a game, a preseason game. It doesn't matter. Probably similar to the Chiefs. I don't know what their ticket situation is. Then they also have the Avalanche and the Nuggets, who have both won championships recently. Went to a few games. Luckily, Tara, my middle daughter, her law firm, they have season tickets. But, those games are $300 in the upper deck. And, so that they're the elite of all 3 sports kind of ticket. And then you have the poor Rockies. But you know what they've done? They've adapted. You can still go and sit in the center field bleachers on a weekend game for $5.
Wow.
You can go on a Wednesday night for $11. So, the 3 games I did against the Guardians, which aren't a huge draw, they're kind of on a roll. They've won 6 in a row, I think, getting back into the playoffs a little bit, maybe. They've made it affordable. They let people bring food in. They don't even do that in minor leagues anymore. You got to still buy a $12 hot dog in the minor leagues. So they've made it affordable for all the people that like sports or like going to an event. It's probably cheaper than Springfield Cardinals baseball.
Yeah. What about the labor situation?
Doesn't look good. I keep, as a former player rep, I've kind of been in touch and done a couple clinics. Our Major League Baseball Players Alumni Association is based in Colorado Springs, and they do clinics all over the state. And I've done a few of those. There's a golf tournament in Greeley this Friday. And so I've talked to, Jim Tomei is the president, and he's not just kind of a figurehead. He's at a lot of events. And I said, Jim, at some point, it can't just be 2 lawyers in a room. I think you need to get the input of some players, their honest opinions, and alumni, their honest opinion. Because, a sport can only withstand so many work stoppages. And I still run into people today that said, yeah, I used to go to baseball, but after the last labor, I quit. I went to a different sport. I watch college now. I don't think baseball can afford another stoppage, but boy, it comes down to the owners want to make more money than they are. And all of them have had franchises that have quadrupled in value in the last 15 years. But they want to make more money, and the players don't want to have a salary cap. I kind of agree there should be a floor that they can't pay less than $100 million, But then again, sometimes there are some good stories. The Guardians payroll is 3rd lowest in baseball. They're in the wild card. They've been in the playoffs 5 years out of the last 7. So you can make it work. Is it hard? And do you have to have a perfect draft? Probably. But I don't know what the big fight is about the salary cap. The other sports have it, and the players seem to be doing really well in those sports. So,
well, what about the competitive balance angle, which I think is what most people look at for the salary cap as being something that is needed in baseball?
Yeah. And the Guardians kind of dispel that a little bit, Art. The Twins have been in the playoffs. The Royals won a World Series. The Rays are good every year. For years when I was playing in the 80s, everyone complained, including the players, that the Yankees were spending twice as much as anybody in baseball. But no one really cared because they weren't good. They weren't winning. It's like it's okay if you pay double if you're the Dodgers and you're not winning. But, boy, if you pay all that money and you win, then you're a bad guy. So, I don't know, Art. Will it make it closer? Probably. I think if you put a floor in there where the owners like the Twins and the Guardians and the Royals have to spend X amount of money, that would give it that competitive balance. But, I also think, and I don't know what you guys think, but if you're New York and L.A., you should spend more money. It's more expensive. You make more money. Why can't they spend more money than everyone else? I don't know.
Well, Bales, we appreciate we're running short on time. Always great to catch up with you. We'll talk more baseball maybe as we get closer to that labor decision there. And I guess you've got radio coming up. I guess if people are really, hurting to hear Bales, they can turn on and listen to a Rockies game coming up, right?
Well, I'll be home in September for the Musial Golf Tournament, so I'll see all you guys when I get home.
Now you're talking.
Come back and see us. Scott, thanks. We appreciate it.
We'll have one, Ned. See ya.
He knows exactly where to go. Scott Bales visiting with us from Denver. Back in a second. Cardinals and the Orioles tonight right here. What else was that?
That's it. Good interview with Bales. Always great to catch up with him. You never know what you're going to get. That's always the fun of it, isn't it, Art? With Scott. Art, you there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no telling where he's going to go, what direction.
Yeah, and that's what made him great on TV and with you, Ned, all those years, too.
He was just a terrific color analyst and knew the game so very well and followed it so very well and articulated it perfectly. We are out of time, guys, and thank you very much, folks, for being with us. Ned Reynolds along with
Scott Purrier.
Art Haynes.
We will be here tomorrow, folks, right at this very same time. Hope you are, too.
See ya.